Hi friends, this is Dave from Southgate Travel Adventures. So today I want to talk about a recent Western Europe cruise from Halifax, Nova Scotia. So if you've been paying attention, Halifax has been gifted with a lot of nice direct flights to Europe in the last year or two that are still seasonal but will be year-round, I believe, before long. Anyway, we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about a Western European cruise we just took with a probably a surprising conclusion. So let's talk about it after this. So if you're in Eastern Canada, Westjet now has direct flights to a number of gateways for Europe. So we have direct flights to London Gatwick, to Amsterdam, to Paris, and what else? And Barcelona. And I think over time, maybe even within the next year, the Barcelona one may be year-round. So that's looking up. So as people are looking to avoid U.S. destinations from East, especially in Eastern Canada, these make a lot of sense. So you can, if you book wisely, you can get to Europe very cost effectively now. So on the cruise that we just did, airfares for two of us on Westjet. These are direct flights. We flew in from Halifax to London Gatwick, and we returned from Amsterdam to Halifax. We returned from Amsterdam to Halifax. We'll talk about that later. Anyway, the cost of those flights all in was about $1,000 Canadian for the two of us. That's just amazing. You can't go to Florida for that kind of pricing here. So that's what we did. We also booked a cabin on a MSC Poesia cruise ship. So we basically flew to London Gatwick, overnight flight. Spent first night of our trip sleeping on an airplane. Next 2 nights we spent in London, and then we took a train down to Amsterdam, and we were on a 5-day MSC cruise out of Southampton. I'll pull up the ports of call and you'll see it here. So basically we did, here's the ports of call. We basically were overnight, went to Cherbourg, France, which is a wonderful city, town. It used to be, the history was it used to be a transatlantic oceanic port. I think the Titanic sailed over there at one point. And it was just a very interesting city, very beautiful city. We'll walk through some of the sites that we saw there. Then it's a sea day. Then it was Hamburg, Germany, another sea day, and then it was Rotterdam. We were disembarking Rotterdam. We spent one night. We were to spend one night in Rotterdam, one night in Amsterdam, and then fly direct to Halifax the next day. So that was the itinerary. So let's just walk through some of the details of that. So the first, the WestJet flight was really good. We had no problems with that. It was on time. It was really, basically a 737 MAX aircraft. That's what we've been flying for a while now. They're safe. We've had no issues on those. They're comfortable, even in like ultra basic, which we were. Ultra basic on those gives you carry-on luggage on the transatlantic flights. So you can book ultra basic. You don't have any ability to refund, but you have a carry-on, which was fine. It was only a short trip for us. 10 days with carry-on is absolutely fine for us. Then we stayed two days in on IBIS in Sutton Point. It was called IBIS Sutton Point. And the key thing in these cities is to always stay on subway stops if you can, or train stops. And the closer you go into London, London's obviously a very expensive city. So the closer you go to London, the more you're going to pay. So we found an IBIS Sutton Point, which was probably a 30-minute train ride from Gatwick Airport, where we landed, into there, and then we took a train from Sutton Point, the Sutton stop, into London. That was great. So I'll have some footage here. I'll just roll through now of Sutton. And the Sutton Point IBIS was, I mean, very nice. We were surprised. In Europe, I tend to use a lot of IBISes. I just, they're not luxury accommodations, but they're usually pretty reliable. And I just haven't had a problem with them. So they're my Marriott of Europe, really. And this one was actually better than expected. The reviews were all good, but this was real good. So we really had no problem with this one. The area in Sutton was neat because it was near High Street. And High Street has a lot of, restaurants, bars, and that kind of thing, and some shopping nearby. So you go into London into the kind of craziness, and you come back, and it's a little more small town kind of atmosphere. And we enjoyed that. We rode to the pub. We just did what was around there. The restaurants were fine. We really had, it was just really nice. There was a full day that we spent in London, and our itinerary wasn't really big. Frida, my wife, always wanted to see the Tower Bridge, and so that was really our first stop. So from our Sutton Point hotel, it was probably 30 minutes to Tower to stop on the train. And here's some footage of the Tower Bridge. It's a nice area. It's a lovely area. It's a great way to start your exploring in London. We spent some time there, probably an hour. And then this is all walk. You can walk the whole thing. The next stop for us was the Borough Market. It was getting close to lunch. And the Borough Market's a big landmark in London. You have to go there. And it was great. We probably spent an hour walking around, just enjoying the experience and kind of casing the joints and seeing what we wanted. And then we had, I think it was like kind of Indian kind of food that was just really good in there. It's crowded in there. You're just lucky to find a place to sit. But here's some footage of that, and here's some photos. That was a really, really nice spot. We really enjoyed that. And then the War Museum was the next on our stop, and that was really the afternoon for us. It's just an incredible War Museum that's in there, and this is all walking distance from the Tower Bridge, really. And we walked to the War Museum, and the museums were all free, and we spent the rest of the day really there, and we really enjoyed it. If you're an aviation person, they have the Spitfires. There's a Zero airplane, Japanese Zero airplane, and a Harrier jump jet right in the main area. Something we did do is we got split up in there, and we didn't have SIM cards working on both phones, so we had a little bit of trouble there. But we got that straightened away. That was all really good. So we could have done more, but what we did, we really enjoyed. We found it dark early over there. This was October, and you want to be back. We don't like walking around at nighttime. And we knew we had a travel day the next day. So we were home sort of early, and I think it's Noseworthy's or pub that's like a chain over there. We went down there and really enjoyed that spot. Really everything was right there. We had great food nearby. The prices of London is not a bargain destination. Obviously, you are just going to be frustrated if you think it is, because it's just not, right? So that's the way that goes. So for us, that was a kind of a nice little itinerary. So really the first day that we were in London, we just spent in the Sutton area, just kind of getting used to it, because the night before we did a red eye, and we didn't get a lot of sleep on the plane. And the second full day, we were in London and just did basically a walking tour. You could have jammed more into it, but it was our first time. We were just getting our bearings. We were happy with that. So the following day was cruise day. And cruise day was basically taking a train down to Southampton. Southampton is just a big sprawling port. The train, had a little confusion with the train, because everyone had told us with the transit there, you just use your card and you can scan in and you scan out. Everyone said the most important thing was to remember to scan out, or you're going to be charged the max. And we knew it would cost more to go down to Southampton. We didn't realize how much it was going to be. I didn't know this, but basically in London, the local trains is a separate system. And then when you go on the Southampton train, The Southampton train's a different system, although you can scan in like we did at Sutton Point, go to your stop where you catch the next train, and you don't have to scan in, you don't have to scan out. We just got on the train and we figured, okay, it's going to be all on the card till the conductor comes around and says, well, where's your ticket? Well, we didn't have a ticket. And that cost, probably we paid a premium for that. I think the Southampton ticket ended up costing us $160 Canadian for the two of us. I'm sure if we booked it in advance, we would have known better. We probably wouldn't have paid so much. So it was a relatively expensive train ride down to Southampton. A little confusing as well, because the train, you get on by train car. So the first 5 trains or something split off and go kind of one route and don't go to Southampton, and the remaining cars do. And if you don't know that, it's a little bit confusing. So, the research that we had done, we really had no idea that what we were in for. So it was fortunately we got on the right train car, and we got to Southampton. So we made it okay. Enjoyable train ride down, other than the conductor coming around and gouging us for tickets, I guess. And it comfortable day. Actually, as soon as we got out of the station, the sun started shining, because the first 2 days were overcast. So it was nice arriving at Southampton. And, we had to find our cruise boat. So we were cruising on MSC, and MSC doesn't do a great job of giving you directions to the cruise terminals, I guess. You have the option, you can take a cab out, but my understanding, it was only a 10-minute walk, but it was a very confusing 10-minute walk that took us an hour. So we had some delays getting to the cruise boat. Next time we'd probably do a better job of that. So there was a couple little hiccups, but nothing really terrible. So my advice is probably do a little bit more research than we did, and you should be okay. So that was that. So we were on MSC Poesia, a relatively old ship, I guess, in fleet, or certainly mid age. I think it's only about 2,500 passengers, and it's one of the smaller ships we've been on. Now, the upside of the small ships is it doesn't take so long to walk from bow to stern, and you don't have so many decks to go from maybe your cabin to the top deck for the buffet or whatever. The downside, you don't have the amenities, but this was a very port-rich cruise for us, and we were really on there just for that. So the ports was the draw for us. So the Poesia itself was in better shape than I thought it was going to be, given the age. It might have been just refitted, I'm not sure, but it certainly wasn't bad. You look at the carpets; they were clean, they were newish. The decor was a bit dated, but not terrible. You'll see some video here as we're going around the ship. So we did mind that. The only disappointment with the cruise, and maybe this is typical of MSC now, is we were disappointed with the food. We generally avoid the buffet and head for the dining rooms, where you usually get better food on MSC. On this cruise, when we boarded, the dining rooms weren't open on departure day, and so we had to go to the buffet, and the buffet food was not very good. I got to tell you, it was not very good. We found something to eat, but it was not good. Even their pizza was cold. It was like the big with cold food. That night, the entertainment we enjoyed. Can't remember the name of the show now, but it was like kind of a rock show, and we really enjoyed the music. It was really good. Dinner was just okay. I wouldn't say it was terrible, but it wasn't an 8 out of 10. It was maybe a 5 out of 10. It was just okay. It was nothing spectacular. The menu wasn't that deep, let's say that. It's almost like they're trying to drive you to the specialty restaurants. That's really the feel that we had. So that was dinner that night, and the entertainment. The entertainment was good. The cabin was just fine. We just had an interior booked. You don't have a lot of expectations, but it was fine. It was quiet. We got a good night's sleep. Traveling like that, this is one of those nights you just sleep 10 hours, boom, you're gone. So that was good. So the next day, it was the port of Cherbourg in France. So beautiful port. We started off the morning walking around. It was really enjoyable. The weather was pretty good there. Very similar to what we get in Halifax. And then it happened. So we were having a great time, and my wife slipped on a cobblestone and fell and broke her arm, unfortunately. So I'm going to do a separate video about that, and more or less just how to handle an insurance claim when something like that happens. You can be as prepared as you want, but you really should be thinking about this in advance. We weren't ill prepared, but I learned a lot in the process of this. So we'll do a video of that. But for this part, like I say, we got to enjoy the good access to Europe from Westjet. We enjoyed that. And we eventually had to spend 2 nights in Cherbourg, France. And we had to rent a car, drive to Paris, and we had to fly home. We ended up flying back with Westjet from Paris, and that went fine, but we had to disembark the cruise. So to disembark the cruise, it's also an interesting process, because at this point my wife was in emergency being attended to, and we knew we couldn't continue once we spoke to the doctor. So when you disembark a cruise, you have to actually get a passport stamp saying that you entered France. If not, they're not going to let you leave at the airport, because they don't know where you came from. So it's important to be able to, if you're going to leave the ship like that, to have an arrangement with immigration that you're going to get that stamp. Immigration wasn't on the ship in France. There was an immigration office not that far away. It was actually between the ship and the hospital. So I was able to run over and get that done, and they allowed it to happen without my wife being there. Basically, the ship arranged that, so that was all good on the guest services of the ship. So that's a really important thing, I guess, that you have to be aware of. If you just kind of took your stuff off the ship, I think they would stop you anyway. I don't know, but you really got to be aware of that, and maybe use this as a learning experience, I guess, that when things go wrong, knowledge is good, and you're not going to fumble around and make some mistakes. What that allowed us to do by getting that stamp in a timely manner, that allowed us to get back to Canada quickly, as the doctor suggested. Otherwise, there wouldn't have been an immigration office open. This happened on a Friday. We wouldn't have got back. We wouldn't have got to the passport stamp until Monday. That would have really delayed us getting back to Canada. The good news is Frida's arm's been fine. It's been healing up really good. She had her treatment in Canada. Everything's fine. So that's how our cruise ended. So I'm going to do a part 2 video of this, and it'll be basically just the insurance process and how you can protect yourself, and how you can streamline that if you know what you're going to need, because it is a very time-consuming process. So we'll talk about that in part 2. And I'll have some separate videos up of the hotel reviews. The hotel I was really impressed with was the IBIS Sutton Point. I would stay there again, the Flash. It is a beautiful hotel. We stayed 2 nights. It was, I think it was $233 Canadian or something like that. Maybe it was $333. I'll have the details in the video. We really liked that. That was a great choice. So again, stay tuned for part 2. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that video. Please remember to like, subscribe. If you have any questions or comments on the video, let me know. Particularly if you're from Atlantic Canada and you're interested in some of this content. I find it fascinating how you can kind of jump into an evolving situation now. We have better connections to Europe and places that you really couldn't even consider going before. Now you can go cost effectively. So let's discuss it. Any questions, let me know in the comments. Anyway, great. Have a great day.